if something binds it, then we may go out of control. So we want to make sure this has full range of motion and it's nice. And the same thing with the rudder. Push it to the left and to the right, just to make sure that it works. And if you see down here where that U piece is, and on the other side there's the cables attached to that. I always like to make sure that that cable is attached and there's wire and stuff. And I do it for both sides because I don't want that to come loose, kind of like my rudder. And the same thing over here. I want to make sure that this is good. Now this is called a trim tab. When you're flying, the faster you go or the slower you go, the airplane wants to go up, nose up or down. So this trim tab helps keep the controls where we want them. So when this moves up and down, this should move too. So I usually put my fingers here, and as I pull up, I want to know if this goes down. See how it's just that close? Now when I go down, see how it gets bigger? So I want to make sure that moves independent of that, of the airline. That means that my trim tab is working. If it didn't move, then we got a problem. We're not going to go fly. Again, check my antennas. My antennas up underneath. I look at the flaps, make sure they're in good shape. And this makes us turn left or right. So I want to, when I touch this control surface, I make sure nobody's on the other side. So when I push up, what should that one do? Exactly. That's what I'm looking for. When this goes down, I want to make sure that they're moving in the opposite direction. But the other thing that I look at here is up underneath. You can see the hinge points. See there's a hinge point right there, one right there, and one right there. There's three of them. And then this is the push-pull. So when I move my controls left and right, then the mechanism pushes this out. Well, I don't trust the wind, so I always put my hand and I hold this up so I can check on this just to make sure. Because if the wind gets it, I snap my finger off. And that's why I make sure nobody's on the other side, because if I'm up here doing this and they've got their hand up there, boom, I could hurt them. So I always make sure that nobody's on the other side before I mess with this. When you come around, these are static wicks. The static electricity goes out in the air. Here's the end of the wing. Our lights, make sure that they're not broken or cracked. There's a little shade. Our landing lights. We check our tires and our brakes to make sure that the brakes are not really designed so much, they just help you slow down a little bit, but they're more to hold you in place. So we do use the brakes when we land, but they're more designed to just keep the airplane in place. Then as we come forward, this is our air conditioner, by the way. It's just the ram air it's going through. The higher you go, though, the cooler the air, which is a good thing for us. And this is the engine in here, and all we can really look at is the oil. I've already checked the oil, so this is just, unscrew it, and pull it out, and then make sure that you have enough oil. And then you make sure that it's tight enough that it's not going to work its way out in flight. And I usually look in there to make sure, do I see anything wrong first flight of the day. Look at the nose wheel. There's a certain amount of that silver part called the oleo that's supposed to be showing. It's usually about 3 fingers is minimum what you want to see, usually 4. And so if there's lower than that, then that means there's something wrong with it. And if there's higher than that, we'll maybe push the tail up and maybe it's still okay. For the propeller, make sure the spinner is good. And the propeller, what we're looking at is the leading edge to see if there's any gouges or things like that. This is an airfoil. This is just like the wing, except this is the high pressure and the low pressure and that kind of stuff. It just spins a lot faster. So if there's any damage to this, then that's going to affect the performance of the airplane. And it could also, these are supposed to be very delicately balanced. If I'm missing a chunk out of here, that means this one's going to weigh more than this. That means that it's going to mess up the engine, and the vibration could cause a lot of damage. So we're making sure that we're good to go here on both the front leading edge of both. Does that make sense? And then that's make sure we don't have any plugs. And on this side, this is for the mechanics and for training. You can actually plug a cart into a wall socket, and there's a box here that moves the electricity. plug it in here, and I can turn on all the electronics. So I can either do training, or a lot of the times the maintenance guys can do work on the aircraft, testing the electrical system, and they don't have to have the engine running. So that's what this is. This is a static port. Air goes across here, and this helps us tell us how high we are based on our barometric pressure. And then this is the airspeed. Ram air goes through there, and it tells us how fast we're going through the air. So I'm looking at the leading edge, some of the vents, things like that. This is what's called a stall horn. There's a little reed in here. So as we're flying, if we start getting slower and slower and slower, we're going to pull our nose up, nose up, nose up, nose up. Then at some point, we start getting to a certain stall airspeed. Then this is going to start singing to us in the cabin. It's going to start whining at us. And the louder it gets and the higher the pitch, the more you need to pay attention. Do you understand what a stall is? You know how a wing works? Okay, the low pressure over. Well, if you go slow, the air flow over that wing, it starts to burble back here, and that slowly creeps forward on the wing until finally it's just not developing enough lift. Weight is going to overcome it, and the airplane's going to fall. So airspeed is important. So that's what this is for. This helps us when you start hearing that stall horn. Then we need to add power. We're right about to land. It's okay here, but any other time you don't want to hear it. We'll just go fast. And you can see we got all kind of floats and stuff on here, but that's just what happens. Landing light, and then basically the same thing that we looked at the other wing. Make sure our lights are okay. So again, nobody's over there. Make sure that this works. It's smooth. I check my little hinge points just to make sure nothing.